So Eddie, we're here. It's under 2 weeks till AJ v Povetkin. How are you feeling? How's AJ been in camp and how's the mood of everyone?
It's been a good camp. It's been a tough camp for him as always. Sparring's been excellent. A bit nervous because everyone's expecting AJ just to win, and I don't think outside of boxing people are realising how tough a fight this is. I mean, in the independent rankings, Povetkin's third in the world. So you've got Joshua, Wilder, Povetkin. Former Olympic gold medalist, lost once to Klitschko on points. It's a very, very tough fight, and AJ's taking it very, very seriously.
Do you think that's, the outside the normal boxing fan, people on the street, they're used to seeing Anthony Joshua, steamroll everyone. Yeah. They haven't realised the danger Povetkin is to.
Yeah, probably, and it's a shame for AJ that maybe he won't get the credit if he wins that he should. But people in boxing, people that follow the sport, know about the qualities of Povetkin. They know about the strengths and dangers of Alexander Povetkin, and they also know the background in terms of who's supporting him. Not just World of Boxing and Andrei Rybinski, but there's support from the government here, and they would look like nothing more than to get one over on Britain and have a Russian become the new heavyweight champion of the world.
In terms of Anthony in camp, you've seen him in all camps, how has he compared to this camp as to camps in the past?
He's been quiet and he's been extremely focused. He's shut himself off from the circus of the Wilder stuff and stuff like that. I remember speaking to him about stuff. He's literally doesn't even know what's been happening. You can tell by his hair. Normally have a little trim in there and a fade, but he's just been grinding in camp, the tough spars, putting his body through it. He understands what's got to be done now in camp a lot more, and I think he's really starting to learn more about the sport of boxing outside of the ring in terms of the camps and the preparation. So he's had a tough camp, like I say, a couple of niggles, which is quite standard, a lot of tough spars, but he's 100% ready to go.
Anthony might not have known what's going on with Fury and Wilder, but what have you made of all the negotiations with that fight, and what's it mean for April 13th, and where are we with that?
Look, we've reached out to Wilder's camp again recently, asking for some kind of feedback, communication or talks about April 13th, and they don't want to know. And people don't see that. People see what Wilder says publicly, but behind closed doors, how are you supposed to close a fight if they won't even contact you or reply to you? So it's frustrating, but he's just got to take care of what he does. He's the number one heavyweight in the world, Anthony Joshua, and that's undisputed. And he wants to be the undisputed champion of the world. And he's got to go through people like Povetkin to get there, mandatory challenges. And when you look at after this fight, he would have had 22 fights, and he would have boxed Povetkin, Takam, Parker, Klitschko, Dillian Whyte, Dominic Brazil. You look at a lot of these other heavyweights; they haven't even broken sweat when they've gone into 20 fights. And he's been doing it time and time again, so he deserves a lot of credit. He's a great ambassador for the sport, he's a great role model for the sport, but he's a mean individual and he's a great fighter, and I think he's looking to do a demolition job on Alexander Povetkin.
Talk about those problems with Wilder. Is it frustrating that you guys have got a venue, you've got a date, and Fury and Wilder have got neither of those, and yet that seems to be going ahead of it? Does that infuriate you?
They said that you can't do a deal if you haven't got a venue or a date, and they've just done a deal with no venue or date, so that's rubbish as well. But I think what Fury and Wilder have done really well is use AJ's name to raise their profile. I don't blame them. I'd do exactly the same thing. But it has worked. But when you're on the other end, it is a little bit frustrating because, I get stopped in the street all the time. When are you going to make the Wilder fight? I said, well, we're trying. You don't want it. Right, okay, well, because it's tough for them. And maybe you don't believe me. Maybe you don't believe them. But all I can tell you is the facts, which are we've signed a contract based on all the terms that they agreed with us. And now we've gone back and said, if you now don't agree those terms, no problem, we won't hold it against you, but can you tell us what terms you do agree so we can try and make the April fight? And if we don't get April, then you're talking November, December again. And then, it'll affect the sport of boxing, and it'll affect fans' perception of the situation, which is we want to fight the best and we want to be in the biggest fights possible.
Is fighting Wilder the priority over Fury, no matter what happens in that fight?
Yeah, because Fury will have Wilder will have a rematch clause against Fury. So if Fury wins, we will never see Joshua Wilder. And the fight that the world of boxing wants is not Wilder Fury. That's a good fight. It's Wilder Joshua. That's the fight the whole of boxing wants, and we can make it for April. But you've just got to reply to us in some. I don't know whether we got to send a couple of carrier pigeons round or some smoke signals or something to get a response. But it's a frustrating process. But you can't look past Alexander Povetkin because I think this is up there with Klitschko as the toughest test of his career so far.
So it's that serious for you in terms of if Fury wins that Joshua Wilder's off the table?
Yeah, well, like I say, he'll have a rematch clause. So, but listen, Fury, I don't believe Fury will win the fight. I'm not even sure the fight will happen. I think they'll announce it. But I hope it does, because it makes Wilder against Joshua huge. But we've got to at least talk. You know, you can't just magically wake up in the morning and a fight's made without any dialogue.
Just quickly on Amir Khan, obviously won at the weekend. What's next for him? Is it Brook? Is it Pacquiao? And when are we looking at a date?
Well, I think one of. I mean, I'm due to see him tomorrow and have a chat through the options. I think he wants Manny Pacquiao on a sort of global scale. He's always wanted that fight. But the Kell Brook fight is a huge fight, you know, financially and in a British boxing sense. So we'll see. I like the Brook fight because obviously I've got both guys, and I think it's a huge fight for British boxing. Both mega fights. We'll see what happens.
In terms of financially, is there one that's ahead of the other?
I think the Brook fight makes Amir more money, to be honest with you. But, you know, I mean, both huge money fights and both great fights. So you're going to get something good regardless of what happens.